ask all the questions of people you admire and where you want to get to. Go visit with that person. Ask them how they first either started investing, started a business, bought a business. Just ask them the questions and surround yourself with very successful people.
What if you could sell your business, roll those profits into real estate, and then set your family up for life, all without losing your mind in the process? Well, today's guest has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs do exactly that. So welcome back to The Root of All Success. I'm your host, the real Jason Duncan, and this is episode 335. My guest today is Brian Truman. He's a commercial real estate broker, an investor, an entrepreneur who's built his reputation for helping clients generate or create generational wealth through smart business exits and strategic real estate investments. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate you having me on, and this is a true honor for me.
Well, our paths have crossed several times over the past, decade or so.
Yeah.
But we've never sat down and had a conversation. And here we are for the first time doing it. And we're only probably less than a 45-minute drive away from one another right now.
Exactly. Yeah. I've missed out on that opportunity of sitting with you.
Well, you've been in consultative sales and negotiations for over 2 decades. So what first pulled you into the world of business deals and real estate?
Looking for, when I was in corporate America, it was looking to, okay, where do I put some of this cash? I was fortunate enough in corporate America to make a decent living. And then so I was like, okay, what do I do with some of this cash? And in 06, 08, when the crash happened, somebody told me about real estate. And so I invested then and wish I knew back then what I do today, because I probably would have invested a lot more.
And now you joined Excel Group in 2016. So what was the vision back then and how has it evolved to what you're leading today?
Yeah. So once I exited out of corporate America in 2011, then I started a business brokerage company, grew it to be the largest one by 2016, had somebody approach me, want to buy it. So I told them my business is always for sale for the right price. I sold it, then went into real estate. My wife was a broker at the time, and I was looking for something to do. And she said, "Why don't you just come and join me?" And now here we are. And I'd build a team when I had the business brokerage company. And so I told my wife, "Why don't we just build a team in real estate? I've done this once before. I do this again."
So you've said that you help people design what you call life by design. So what does that really mean for you personally, and how do you help others do that?
I really appreciate that question, Jason, because for me, a lot of people are like, "So what do you like most about commercial real estate?" It's probably the money, and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's actually for me because the money's just a side issue. For me, it's helping new investors and putting them on a path that, within 6 to 8 years, I can have them pulling in enough, cash flow that they can choose that life by design, meaning that they can choose to do whatever, they want. I have a client that we started just buying a couple of duplexes. And then from there, we just kept scaling. This was about 8 years ago. He sold it, or he rented his house in East Nashville, bought him a dually truck. Him and his wife and 2 kids and a couple of dogs are out, spent the last 2 years out traveling the country, going to all the national parks, doing whatever. And that isn't probably what I do, Jason, but that's what they've chose to do. And, so that's kind of what I talk about. And that's what I'm passionate about. That's what gets me up every day to go do what I do.
So you've been parts of hundreds of deals. So I want to ask you, what's one negotiation that taught you a hard but valuable lesson?
Oh man, that's the one beauty about real estate. No 2 days are ever the same, right? And there was a lot of lessons learned on a large complex. Believe it or not, wasn't here locally in Nashville, but it was in Union City, Tennessee. It took like 2 years to get that thing, closed and done, but it was just one thing after another from the standpoint of having, Fannie and Freddie to be on site to do their inspection the day that they had the worst rainstorm in like 15 years in Union City, and the whole city was flooded. Our property wasn't, but it got a lot of rain, and so that was the worst time ever to have inspection. So I mean, it's just one thing after another. But the beauty of it is we worked through it all, and I think the key is if you have a willing buyer and a willing seller, no matter what issue you run into, you can get the deal across the line.
So, how do you help clients separate emotional decisions from smart investment decisions when they're selling or buying a property?
Yeah, that's one of the key reasons I like commercial instead of residential. Right, residential has a lot of emotion to it, meaning, no, I don't like the colors in this bathroom, or I do. Where commercial, it's do the numbers work or do they not work? If they don't work, let's move on to the next deal. Right, and so it's very and coming out of the business world, that made a lot more sense for me than to do residential. Right, is just you and most buyers and sellers, in commercial understand that it's all about the numbers. Do the numbers work or do the numbers not work?
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, the sellers may want a certain number, but they also, if you say to them, okay, if the shoe was on the other foot, would you buy this property for what you're asking? If they're honest with you, they'll tell you, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you built your business on education and integrity. So, what's one common myth that you see people believing about the real estate wealth building that's just not true?
A lot of people have too much fear, and they think that it is gonna the barrier to entry is too expensive. That it's going to cost them too much. Instead of looking at it and going, okay, maybe I need to start smaller than I'm thinking, or maybe I need to do a joint venture with somebody, or maybe I need to just invest in somebody else's deal first to kind of understand how it all works. And then I can start doing this on my own. Right. It's usually fear is the biggest reason. I'll have people say, yeah, I've got some money, I want to invest, and they're like, yeah, I'm looking at maybe starting like 3 or 4 units, and I'm like, okay, but what could you afford? If you can afford 20, buy 20. Don't but it's the fear that seems to scare people with commercial.
Let's talk about your service. You've served as a city councilman and on the board of zoning and appeals. How did that civic experience shape your business approach?
I think in working as a city councilman, I think it really helped on the business side from the standpoint of doing your due diligence, being prepared on your properties. As a city councilman, I would we'd get our packet the couple weeks before. I went through everything. I went and did all the site visits. I had all the information to where be day of city council, the place would be packed, and there'd be a lot of heated, opinions on all sides. But the one thing I learned, Jason, is that I could say to the folks, I just want to let you know why I'm voting the way I am going to be voting. Here's what I've done. I went out and looked at the properties. I went out and looked at this land, whatever it is. I have researched everything. I know all the zoning, everything. And this is the reason why I'm voting this way. And then I'd tell them which way I'd vote. A lot of people would come up to me afterwards and they'd say, you know what, Brian, we don't agree with the way you voted, but we have total respect because you were prepared, you knew what you're talking about, and you had done your due diligence on everything. And I've taken that whole approach in my life, whether it's in the business world, in the business brokerage sales, or even in real estate, to always be prepared with all the facts. When I call a seller about his property, I probably know more about his property than he does. right? And being prepared, um, has served me very well in all the roles that I've served in.
Well, now you're serving in a different role. You're leading the multifamily focus group for real estate investors of Nashville, and then you sit on the CCC Nashville board. So, why is community involvement so important to you as an entrepreneur?
It's providing that education, like you said. We do. I run the RIN. We as a company also do a couple educational events a month, and so it's educating the investor community, and to help them understand. Kind of going back to your question, is where I've mentioned fear, is helping them understand what it looks like to invest in commercial, that there are paths, and no matter what income level, what nationality, what wherever there, that we can provide them opportunity for deals that they probably would have never come by. We can introduce them the right people, for whether it's financing, whether it's partnerships, all of that, to just provide the education to help them, because I'm all about, like you say, helping them create generational wealth so that they can have that to pass down to their kids or their kids' kids, or they're into charities and that, philanthropy, whatever they're into, to help it out. Because that's how we're going to help this crazy world.
Now, you're a husband, you're a dad of four boys. So, what lessons about work ethic or leadership do you hope that they are going to pick up from watching you?
Well, that's I love that question as well. My dad was a contractor, so I grew up with him. I grew up, you know, going to work at 6:30 in the morning, working until 6:30 at night. I'd want to go out on the weekends with my buddies. My dad would say, "I'm fine with that as long as you can get up at 6 o'clock to go to work the next day." Things like that. So, and if you ask my kids what it means to be a Truman, they would tell you to work hard and to have that work ethic. And my dad taught me that. I've taught that to my kids, throughout. And that's the number one thing. If you ask them, what does it mean to be a Truman? That's exactly what they'd tell you.
All right, listeners, if you're enjoying this conversation, I want to make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can go see it at youtube.com/the real Jason Duncan. You can see full video episodes, behind the scenes clips, extra teaching on how to build an exitable business, and every single one of the podcast episodes that I've ever recorded. I have this show that you're listening to now, and I have another show called Chisel and Compass you might want to check out too if you're interested in the intersection of faith, business, and mindset. And while we're on the topic of growth, we're talking about with Brian, this episode is sponsored by the folks over at Dubb, D-U-B-B. This is the video communication platform that I personally use for connecting with leads, with prospects, with clients, with my team. So if you simply want if you want to simplify your follow-up and you want to close deals faster, then you should really check out Dubb. You can create real videos that can be seen by people in their email inbox. This is a cool thing to do. And if you want to try this out, go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. That's spelled D-U-B-B. Therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. And get started today. You can get 50% off your first couple of months. You get a free trial. You will always love using Dubb. I've used it since 2018, loyal customer of theirs, and very honored to have them as our title sponsor for today's episode. All right, Brian, so you've helped business owners exit and reinvest into real estate. So what do you see as the biggest mistake founders make when they're planning their exits?
The biggest mistake they make is actually planning it. So many of the folks that contact us about, hey, I want to sell my business, is number one, they haven't thought about the exit. So they haven't had the exit in mind. They started it, they had this great concept, they thought this is wonderful, we're going to build this. Then they get towards the end, or they're getting burned out, and now they're like, oh, now what? So they haven't planned it. Number two is, part of that, I think, is now that we're getting into the silver tsunami, a lot of the parents built a business in anticipation when their kids are going to take it over. Then when COVID hit, it seems like, I don't know what you call it. Kids, I don't know. I don't want to come out and say they're lazy, but they are. I'll just say it. And that the kids don't want to take over their business that they've built. And the parents were thinking, "Hey, we built this. One of our kids are going to take this, run it." And so many of them now, they don't want to do that. And so not having an exit plan, so not planning is the biggest failure we have. So they will come to us and say, "Now what?"
Yeah.
And we'll say, "Well, we can help you sell the business. We'll take that money. You can buy some real estate, because I guarantee you, your kids will want your real estate,
Hmm.
because they don't have to do a whole lot with it." So,
Well, what's one practical step that anybody can take right now to start building generational wealth?
start investing. Start investing. Immediately. People ask me what was my biggest mistake, and I was like, not investing more earlier on.
Yeah.
So I tell some of these. I had some interviewed a couple of guys. They're probably 25, 26. They're on their fourth, fifth property now. And I tell them, I'm jealous of you guys, because I wish I would have started like that. Right. And so I just tell people, invest early and often as you can.
All right. So let me ask you this: how do if you think about your key to success and all the ways that you've unlocked success, what's the one key that's unlocked success more than anything else?
Having a drive and having a desire of where you want to be in 20, 30, 40 years, how many ever.
Yeah.
But
And how?
and I say it's, drive. You got to be driven towards whatever it is you want to do and where you want to be in life. And then you have to take the necessary steps to get there, whether it's reading, listening to podcasts like yours, whether it is being in rooms with people that think much bigger than you do, being around those kind of people, all of that. That's going to help you get where you want to be, but you have to have the drive to want that.
So, how do you personally define that word success?
Uh, yeah, that is a loaded question, because to me it's not only about money, right? Yes, that is being successful, but a lot of people feel like, hey, they're being successful because they're making a difference in their community, making a difference in other people's lives, all of that, which that's a big drive for me. I've been fortunate along the way that in doing that, I've been able to, you know, make some good money along the way. But it's, to me, it's just helping people be better people in society.
Based on that definition, do you consider yourself successful?
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
All
Yeah.
right. Well,
Yeah.
what would you say is your best piece of advice for entrepreneurs who want to build wealth without losing their peace?
Uh, they can come and visit with me. Yeah, I can help them, put them on that path. But I would just say get with someone that you feel is very trustworthy, very ethical, have high integrity, and let them help you. Ask all the questions. There is, as I people come and say, "Hey, can I pick your brain and ask this?" And then they'll say, "Well, okay, I'm going to ask you a stupid question." I'm like, there is no such thing as a stupid question. There's only a stupid answer, which puts all the pressure on me, right, to answer you right. But no, I just it's like, ask all the questions of people, maybe of somebody you admire and where you want to get to, go visit with that person. Ask them how they went about it, right? How they first either started investing, started a business, started, bought a business, however it is, just ask them the questions and surround yourself with, you know, with very successful people. There's obviously everybody's heard the quote that you are, the makeup of the five, people you hang around with the most per se. Um, that's in a way that's very true, but it's just getting around people of where you want to be and ask questions. So
All right. Are you ready for our closing rapid fire segment?
absolutely.
All right. Favorite investment property type, multifamily, retail, or land?
How about a 1 and a 1A?
All right.
Multifamily and multi-tenant industrial.
All right. Biggest red flag in a deal?
Trust but verify, meaning never trust 100% the broker on the other side. Do your due diligence. So
The
you're
best
on.
piece of advice that you've ever received?
Man, biggest piece of advice. Um, Probably biggest piece probably from my dad. Who always said, same saying you always hear, right? Treat people how you want to be treated, and be honest, ethical, and have integrity. And
All right.
you'll never, you'll never regret anything that happens.
All right. And if you could, last one, if you could go back to your first year in business, what would you tell yourself?
Uh, be be a little more thorough on the people I hired.
Oh, that's good. Sounds like it comes from a place of pain.
You've run a business, Jason. You know how that is, right?
Well, let me tell you, I've had people cost me millions of dollars. I know exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah. So, it's just, yeah, I tell you, I mean, you're probably the same way. I mean, my interview questions and everything else and how I go through the process and everything else are far different now than it was at the very beginning.
Well, Brian, thank you for being on the show. Tell people how to get in touch with you if they want to reach out.
Yeah, you can. I'm on all the socials. You can find me on. You can find me on LinkedIn. I post on there almost every day, something trying to add value to people's lives. And I'm on, Facebook, not on Twitter, but and then our, website is which is what you mentioned at the very beginning. So accelcre.com, and they can call me. I know it's crazy, but I always give out my phone number, and they can call me any time of day or night and I'll answer. So 615-260-2121.
Well, Brian, thank you for being on the show. Congratulations on your success.
Well, thank you. Glad we finally got a chance to speak.
All right, you know what time it is. It's time for another edition of JD's Public Service Rants. This is the part where I call out the little things that shouldn't have to be said, but clearly they do. So if you're guilty of this one, well, consider yourself officially put on notice. I want to talk to people who let their dogs run off leash. And look, I love dogs. Most of us do. But if you're one of these people who thinks leash laws don't apply to your precious fur baby, well, let me just say this. You're not a free spirit. You're a public nuisance. The rule isn't optional. It's not a suggestion for people whose labradoodles don't listen. It's there for a reason, safety. Not everyone loves dogs, and not every dog loves other dogs. And some people are terrified of them, and some kids have allergies, and your golden retriever might be the friendliest thing since Mr. Rogers, but to this jogger, it just lunged at, that's a heart attack on legs. There's a whole section at the park literally called a dog park where Fido can go nuts. But the rest of us, we'd like to walk or run or sit in peace without your dodging your off-leash landmine of chaos. So clip the leash on, follow the rules, and stop acting like you're training a police canine, because you're not. You're just being rude. Well, that's it for today's JD's Public Service Rant. If you've got an idea for one of these, send it over my way. And remember, Don't be that guy. And thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Listener, for spending a few minutes with us today talking to Brian Truman about his success. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about bringing interesting stories about how people have done it, what they did, what their perspective is on success, and what it means to them, and considering whether or not they're successful based on their own definition. So thank you for tuning in today and listening to this show. Make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another successful person about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.